Welcome to the Asset Preservation Hour. My name is Cynthia DeFazio, and I'm joined today by Stewart Willis. He is president of Asset Preservation Wealth and Tax, and also our special guest, Spike Spengel, radio host. Always nice to have you.
Cynthia, thank you for having me, Stewart. Always good to see you, buddy. I tried to bring my mixer board out here, but they didn't let me. I got no buttons to push. So the only buttons I can push are on him then today.
Well,
all right, we'll go easy on me.
All right.
Go easy.
Well, oh my goodness, gentlemen, what a show we have today, because obviously, as we know, coming home every day, the first thing I do typically get comfortable, put the TV on, and it's more and more bad news, scary news, fear, right? So, Stewart, I have to ask you, what's happening in the markets right now?
Well, so obviously we're clearly still in, bear territory here. The markets have essentially crashed around us, and we start to see some daylight, and then they do it again over and over. And I think what's on everybody's mind is that word recession. Are we there? Are we not there? Well, depends how you define it. Apparently now we're no longer using the standard economic definitions of recession. But, inflation is another big one that's, causing a lot of this turmoil. Because remember, inflation numbers are what the Federal Reserve is using to, increase interest rates, right? And when they increased interest rates, what that's doing is essentially trying to kill the economy. They're trying to slow down the economy. And remember, the Federal Reserve has two main mandates. It's keeping inflation under control. They want to see between 2% and 3%, and then full employment. And so right now, we just can't shake the employment issue. I know on the radio show you were talking a bit about.
Yeah, well, somehow you gave me numbers of saying inflation being around 7% right now. I haven't seen prices go down on things right now. Maybe on homes we've seen a little bit with the interest rates. But the other thing you just said is talking about having full employment. Full employment every single day when we're looking at these news stories. We're seeing more and more layoffs right now. How are we staying at full employment right now? Or is that the tech sector reacting to what's going on in the economy?
So the stuff you're seeing with Amazon, and I wouldn't even put Twitter in that world, because those layoffs are completely different.
Goldman Sachs about to lay off 4,000.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and here's an example. In our industry, it's been really difficult to hire employees. Look, our company, we're not seeing, this pullback, this recession. Our company's doubled in size over the last year, and so we need employees. We're hiring. We're always looking for top talented.
This is an advertisement right now. Listen, if you are smart and hardworking and diligent, and you like what you see here, apply online.
If you're a certified financial planner and you're not happy where you're working now, and you really want to work,
also accountants and back office people who show
we're always
up,
busy. We're always busy, and we're always looking for superstars. I like to surround myself with the dream team. They have to run the gauntlet to be able to get through to work with us. But no, I think I digress. Hey, why not take advantage of it? We're on live TV.
But this recession, a definition of recession. You went to Berkeley. You're saying we have redefined what recession is. Do you see this as a long recession, getting out of this tailspin, this nosedive anytime soon?
Well, I think that is one of the things clients are most concerned about. Is the concerns they have are, can I retire still? Especially those people that are looking to retire over the next year or two. The main question is, can I retire? Or the people that just retired, can I stay retired? Because, Cynthia, I think oftentimes what happens is people really, they're relying on historical returns to continue to be able to retire. So, I don't worry about the person that makes $50,000 a year that has $500,000 saved. I worry about the people that are making $300,000 a year that have $1 million saved, right? And you may say, oh, I've got $1 million, we can make it. But if that's only 2.5, 3 years of your income, that could be a problem.
Oh, sure.
Right, but you've also said, past performance is no guarantee of future results, and any assertion to the contrary is a federal offense. It's on the front page of every prospectus you've never read, right? Or most people have never read. So if we look at past performance to try to move into the future of this investment world, you're going to be getting it all wrong. Can we look at the last 10 or 15 years of performance to invest forward?
No, absolutely.
Great question.
Yeah, no, absolutely not. I think the reality is that we've had a lot of fuel to this economy that has made it better and better and better, and allowed the market to really take a run that it did. Number one, number one, I want to show you a graphic just for a couple seconds here. This is the S&P 500 graphic, and this S&P 500 will show you just how long we've been on this run, right? You see that dip. I know it's kind of obscured at the bottom, but we've seen a 13, 14-year run up until the peak, and that peak was at the end of 2021, and then 2022 was just straight down there on the right side. But what I want to point to you also is that first hump that you see on the left, that's the 2000 dot bubble collapse there. .com bubble collapse.
.com, and then the next one is which?
2008. That's the financial crisis.
Housing credit crisis.
So, but if you take a look from 2000 to 2012, the market didn't do anything. It didn't make any money at all in terms of return. Now, you have to ask yourself the question, are we back in that situation today?
And for how long?
And for how long? Listen, if I knew that, I wouldn't be hanging out with you, Spike.
I know that.
I'd be on my I'd be on my 500-foot yacht in the south of France right now, and with my
You and Elon Musk yacht racing. But
Yes.
instead, we're here and we're working today. So how long could something like this? I mean, average run we've talked about on bear markets, isn't it 2 to 4 years on a bear market?
Well, historically, but Cynthia, we've never been in this situation here. What I want to show you also is the 10-year Treasury graphic that we have here, because this will really show you how this economy was recently fueled. If you look at the peak on the left, those are interest rates, and you see that 15 on the right there, that's 15% in the 80s. The 10-year Treasury has been on a 35-year decline, which has made money cheaper and cheaper and cheaper to borrow, less expensive to borrow. Right? Well, look at what we've seen over the last year and a half, right? What does it look like? Like a ski jump, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Right? So as those interest rates have increased, what that does is it puts pressure on housing. It puts pressure on companies borrowing money.
Sure.
So a lot of the S&P 500 or the NASDAQ, where people would invest their investments, and they'd say, hey, Stewart, I don't need you. I'll just put it into an S&P 500 index. Well, now that money's becoming, exponentially more expensive to borrow for companies, or less available for companies, or your housing costs go up. Remember, for 25 years, people have been able to borrow money, build the pool outside, update their bathrooms, update their kitchens. And
all for 2.5–3% maybe.
Yeah,
Right,
they'd have
you can't go wrong with that. I mean, it's
see,
almost like free money, if you will.
You're a real estate professional. I mean, you know that a lot of this economy has been fueled by people's ability to buy more expensive stuff.
Absolutely.
Without changing their monthly mortgage, right?
It's so true.
So we've seen people here. I really say that right now we have the nicest kitchens we're ever going to see in our lifetime.
Right.
We're never going to see such nice.
The nicest filled out
outdoor living
basements.
areas. Oh my
everything
gosh,
that goes around.
absolutely.
When I was in Italy, I was in Pompeii, and I know the volcano exploded and kind of everybody froze in place there, or burned in place, whatever. Like, if that happens to Scottsdale, I'm telling you, they're going to look back at our kitchens and just say, oh my gosh, right?
This generation really liked to cook.
Yes, they were doing something right. Okay.
These bathrooms and kitchens are just amazing. But no, that's all stimulated by these low interest rates. And now we're starting to see housing pull back pretty substantially.
And it affects so many different parts of the market, as you know as well.
absolutely.
Because when the interest rates go up, that means we're buying less in homes, but that means we're also buying less in furniture, less carpets, less of the amenities that go into the house, and less of those changes.
Course.
And that slows down so many different elements of the economy.
That
really,
is the
truly
economy,
does.
right?
Yeah.
And so I think, a lot of people are concerned, well, where do we go from here, right? What's the direction we should be taking?
Right.
And I would just say this, when you make a decision to, not be fearful, right? And, Warren Buffett has that famous quote, be fearful when other people are greedy, and be greedy when other people are fearful. Well, right now people are scared, right? And you don't want to act out of those emotions. Remember, there's two emotions that guide you when you invest. It's fear and it's greed.
Absolutely.
It's those two emotions and those two alone. And so what you need to do is look for opportunity, but you should also make sure that your portfolio is set up for this economy, for this market, not for what we had 5 or 10 years ago, but for today. And if you're depending as an income source on market-driven investments that are incredibly volatile, just remember, when you take income, if you need to sell positions, you're selling low. If you need to buy, you may be buying high. And that's the problem. Everyone knows you're supposed to buy low, sell high. And in this kind of market, sometimes you're forced to do the opposite. So if you have concerns that you're taking too much risk, if you have the same portfolio you did 3, 4, 5 years ago during one of the greatest markets the world's ever seen, and you have concerns that you're taking too much risk, what we're offering the audience today is a complimentary portfolio review. That's available in our Tempe office, our Sun City Surprise office, or our Scottsdale office. If you give us a call at 833-652-7829, or even easier, pick up your phone, click on that QR code, that'll take you to our website, apsitaxes.com. You click on complimentary portfolio review. For the first 10 callers, we're offering that complimentary review to look at all the risks you're taking, the fees you're paying, and what kind of tax implications are hiding in the background. But you have to take action today and give us a call.
Stuart, thank you so much. And Spike, thank you so much. To our viewers at home, that number to call is on your screen. The call center is open and awaiting your call, 833-652-7829. We're going to take a very short commercial break, but when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about should you be thinking about doing a Roth conversion, especially if the market is crashing right now. You're not going to want to miss what Stuart has to say on that topic. We'll be right back momentarily on the Asset Preservation Hour with Stewart Willis.
People are really concerned about outliving their money. Inflation, taxes, volatility in the markets, legacy, that's what people are really concerned about. Listen, I love what I do. When a client of mine can know with total confidence that they're going to be okay. At Asset Preservation, that's exactly what we do. Not only do we look at your investments, we look at your taxes and estate planning as well. We don't leave any stone unturned. That is what a real holistic shop does. Provide a very clear roadmap so that you know it's okay to enjoy retirement. Success is being able to sleep at night. And at the end of the day, what we provide at Asset Preservation is not only the market expertise by institutional money managers that are some of the biggest and best in the world, but we also provide complete advice. You need to make sure you have a plan. What you can expect from us is to let you know the truth about your portfolio.
Welcome back to the Asset Preservation Hour. My name is Cynthia DeFazio, and I'm joined today by Stewart Willis. He is president of Asset Preservation Wealth and Tax, and our special guest, Spike Spengel, radio host. And you're also doing live events, which I'm so excited about having you both together.
Oh, well,
obviously.
yeah, so getting back out there, especially from COVID shut down a couple of years ago, and to get back out there and to see people. You did one at the Broadway Theater recently that I attended with you. We had 150, 175 people.
You know, it's funny because our live events are really different than most. You know, when most people do these dinner seminars, and they usually have 15 or 20 people in a room, and you're kind of cornered to feel pressure to sign up for something. Our events are different. Typically what we do is we have 100 people, 150 people in these rooms, and we're very clear. Look, we're not the right company for everybody, and we're not going to force you to sign up for anything. We want to do business with people that are interested in us and want to do business with us, right? We're not into forcing relationships, but those live events, I know we have a couple scheduled. If you go to the website, you can take a look at our schedule, see what's coming up. They're unbelievable. They're amazing. And like I said, in October of last year was the first time we had done them in 3 years because COVID just made it really difficult.
Yeah. And I remember somebody saying in the back, I've never been to a live event like this before when it came to financial planning, because you really did. You answered a lot of questions. You did questions. The presentation itself was nearly an hour and a half, and then you did 2 hours of questions afterwards. So it was kind of like a big financial party.
Yeah, listen,
awesome.
if people like interacting, you know, they're calling the show for some people, they just are, it's hard to do. I think the live events are a good way to kind of meet the audience and the fans of the show.
I do too. Well, gentlemen, obviously, we were talking in the commercial break and even before the show started today, the Roth conversion, people are interested in that. They want to learn more about it. So I should ask you, Stewart, in times like this with the market being tumultuous, should people be looking at doing Roth conversions, and what are they exactly?
Yeah, so first of all, in order to understand a Roth conversion, you need to understand what the Roth does, right? So with a regular IRA or a 401k or a 403b or deferred comp or thrift savings plan, what people have done is they've listened to, you know, the professionals in the past that have said, defer your taxes until you're done working because you're going to make less money in retirement and you'll pay less taxes. What we found out in our cash flow modeling is that just isn't true, because even if you make less income, what people never considered is that, you know, our average client that comes and sees us has between $1 million and $2 million in Social Security benefit that doesn't necessarily have to be taxable because, first of all, Social Security was never meant to be taxed. What makes it taxable is all of your other taxable income. So while you may be in a lower bracket than you were before when you were working, or you have lower income, well, guess what? Those brackets aren't staying the same, right? Let me first pull up a tax bracket slide that we have here, and this will show you our current tax brackets that we're in today, and that's in red. The blue is where we were in 2017. Now, this red is going to sunset and go back to blue at the end of 2025. So we only have a few years to act here. And that's why you don't want to be forced into a situation. You want time to plan, and we have 3 years. These are the most important 3 years of your financial life because you have time to plan out your Social Security, you have time to plan out your income, you have time to consider whether a Roth conversion is right for you. And just take a look. The 22% bracket, if Congress doesn't act, is going to revert to 25 to 28%. The 24 is going to revert to 28 to 33%. So let me just tell you, Cynthia, now is the time for people to consider whether or not Roths make sense. Now, what a Roth is when you put your money away, you put it away today, but you don't get a tax deduction. But from now until the date that you pull it out, it's all tax-free. So is the interest, right? So imagine if you didn't do it in a 401k, you paid the taxes 20 years ago, and for the last 20 years, during the greatest stock market in history, all of that money grew tax-free. That's what a Roth does, right? But now the question is, how do we unwind this tax time bomb that people have created? They put away all this money, $500,000, $1 million, $2 million into an IRA or a thrift savings plan, or 457 if you work for the state, right? And what we do at Asset Preservation, we have an entire tax department that's dedicated to creating cash flow models to determine if it makes sense. And look, I love tax people. God bless them. They work their tails off during tax season. But I'm telling you, we have to untrain and retrain all of them, Cynthia, because during tax season, these people want to be heroes to the person in front of them, and they say, hey, if we put...
Most people come in and say, I want to pay as little in taxes this year as possible.
Yes.
And that's how they're trained, and the difference is the Roth conversion.
But the mistake is indulging that, right? For the tax person to indulge it and say, hey, if you put $6,000 away into your IRA, you can save $1,500 today. Well, yeah, but if you're creating this massive tax time bomb down the road, I think it's a big problem because, look, I talk about this example, but it sticks with me like it was yesterday. I had a client that came in during tax season. He came in, he had $3 million or so inside his IRA. He was 83 years old. And it was the first time I met him. He was referred by a great client of ours. And I said, wow, sir, you've done a great job. You should be really proud of what you've accomplished. You put away all this money. And he looked at me, and his eyes started tearing up, and he said, Stewart, yes, I have all this money, but I'm too damn old to enjoy it. My wife is dead. I've got all this money. I can't travel. She wanted to go and travel the world, but I didn't want to pay the tax on withdrawing money from the IRA, so we never did anything. She passes away. Now I'm too old to enjoy this money, right? And you have to understand, if your goal is to stack up as much money as you can to impress your friends because you want to impress them with how big your portfolio is, that is not the right client for us. If you want to understand how you can squeeze the nectar out of life, enjoy every moment of retirement, then you need to have a plan, because people are so afraid of either paying taxes or running out of money that they never get to enjoy their life's work, right? Look, I work my tail off, right? And I do it because I...
You got to stop calling me at midnight. Really.
I will never call you at midnight.
Sleep sometimes, Stewart.
I'm not drunk texting anybody. I'm not doing it.
All right, I'm going to give you one opportunity to take a break, because part of what Stewart is talking about right now is the Roth conversion challenge. So we challenge you to accept this challenge. Do you have those tax-deferred accounts? Have you saved hundreds of thousands of dollars in those 401ks, 403bs, those IRAs? The tax time bomb that Stewart is talking about is that your Social Security can be taxed, depending on how much income you take in retirement. Those tax-deferred accounts, guess what? The deferred is now. When you start taking that retirement, you've got to start paying the taxes, and then taxes are set to sunset. And we're $32 trillion in debt and counting. So the tax time bomb is, we've got to try to get you into tax paid accounts so you can get that money out tax-free.
Yeah, it's just about enjoying retirement, because remember, you're not, as we get older, there's only so many years in your life that you can actually enjoy it, right? You know, there's that kind of, you know, the hump in life where, you know, the first 5-10 years of retirement are really the years to enjoy and have a great time, and you're mobile, you can do whatever you want. And then we get older, right? And then having all this money doesn't do you any good, because all you're doing is looking at it while you're too old to enjoy it. Don't be the person that's too old to enjoy their money. If you've done your job, if you've put your money away, you've listened to the professionals by putting your money away tax deferred, and you have concerns that you're going to be trapped in this tax time bomb, what we're offering you is a complimentary portfolio review. If you give us a call at 833-652-7829 for the first 10 callers, what we're going to do is give you that complimentary portfolio review. We'll let you participate in that Roth conversion challenge to determine whether or not it's the right thing for you. Even easier, pick up your phone, click on that QR code. It'll take you to our website. We'd be glad to give you a second opinion on whether or not a Roth makes sense for you and whether or not you're taking too much risk in your portfolio for today's market.
Stewart, thank you so much. And Spike, thank you so much. To our viewers at home, that number to call is on your screen. The call center is waiting, 833-652-7829. We have to take a very short commercial break. We're running a little low on time, but when we come back, we're going to talk about the difference between tax planning, tax preparation, more in depth. Stay tuned. We'll be right back on the Asset Preservation Hour.
Right now, the market is a big mess, and oftentimes people feel lost. So while most people are scared, you need to know that you're going to be okay. I'm sure you have a lot of concerns about whether your portfolio really fits you. And if you need help, all you have to do is give us a call. At Asset Preservation, what we offer is a complimentary portfolio review. We can provide that fresh set of eyes to give you that second opinion. You can't get a second opinion from the guy who gave you the first. You want to make sure you're dealing with a fiduciary. We'll give you that fiduciary perspective. If you have a relationship with a financial advisor that you don't entirely enjoy, I think that's a problem, because these relationships are not meant to be short term. They're meant to last a lifetime. You don't want to deal with people you don't like. If you have concerns about your portfolio, you need to give us a call.
Welcome back to the Asset Preservation Hour. My name is Cynthia DeFazio, and I'm joined today by Stewart Willis. He is president of Asset Preservation Wealth and Tax, and our special guest, Spike Spengel, radio host.
KTAR, KFYI, and you said Arizona Sports too, right?
Yes, Arizona Sports. I've got my buddy John Gambo now, who's endorsing us along with Jim Sharp on KTAR. So they're phenomenal. They become good friends of mine. I have a great relationship with them, and
so you do the TV, you do the live events. You've got the firm itself. When do you have time for Shay?
Yeah, it's not a lot of time. Not a lot.
She's wonderful. I love Shay. Tell her I said hi.
We'll do that in retirement.
Right. Well, Stewart, let me ask you a question, obviously, because we're going to talk about the difference between tax planning and tax preparation. I know that the current tax laws are going to sunset in 2026. Why is that important to the viewers today?
Well, it's because we have a very limited window of time to act. Look, when the last tax rates were dropped during the Trump tax cuts or the Tax Cut and Jobs Act, it was done during the greatest economy, the greatest stock market in history. There was a lot of tailwind in there that really helped this get done. Well, look, we're in a recession. We are seeing massive inflation. We've spent trillions of dollars on COVID. I mean, it is just going to be impossible to get that through, in my opinion. Now, look, we're going to have meetings with our representatives in Congress and Senate. I'm a very active communicator with our representatives, so we're going to pressure them as much as we can to get this thing going. But just remember, under the current laws, it's going to sunset. Taxes are going up if Congress doesn't act. So what we know for a fact is we have this window, and we need to take advantage of it. Now, tax preparation is just about getting your taxes done. It's about, going and seeing your tax person. You give them your W-2s, your 1099s. Yeah. They do all the tax work in the background. And look, I know they're working their tails off to find all of your deductions. Super important to have a good tax preparation.
Yeah.
But tax planning is when you take that information from the tax prep in the tax returns, and then you start saying, okay, well, what can we do moving forward to really make sure that we put ourselves into a better tax position, not this year, not next year, but for the rest of your life. And so oftentimes, unfortunately, that means paying a little more tax now so that you don't have to do it for the rest of your life.
And most people don't like to hear that. They don't want to pay more tax now, but we're talking about huge tax relief down the road.
Potentially.
I know your favorite month of the year is April. I know that you love April.
I way overstaffed for this year, so bring it on. No, look, we only do tax preparation for our financial clients now. The demand just got so high with the TV show. So all of our tax services are only available to our financial clients. But we do that really advanced
But what
planning.
I want to ask you, when is the best time to start doing that planning for down the road? Is there a better time of year for that?
Well, so it's a good time to start creating a plan now, right? To be able to create the foundation. So tax prep season, which we're in now, is basically the season that we gather all the data, right? We do all the data input and so forth. And look, whether we do our clients' taxes or not doesn't matter to us. We just want the tax return, right? Tax prep, these people are working 10, 15-hour days. They're exhausted. You don't want to do any advanced planning with somebody that's working those kind of hours, right?
Right.
You want to do it when they're fresh, when they're off season. And so normally we're doing tax planning in the beginning of the year, before tax prep season begins, or after tax season ends. So we're doing it on fresh eyes, on a fresh mind, so to speak. So tax planning adds a lot of value, especially when you cash flow out a bunch of things. I told a story a few weeks ago about a client of ours who referred her brother to us, and she had about $100,000 that we managed, and she referred her brother, who became a really good friend of ours. But he was selling a $7.5 million property. He had a couple $1 million in an IRA, and we went to him, and after we did all of our cash flow work, we showed them, we said, hey, it makes more sense to convert all this IRA to Roth in either 1 or 2 years. He took it to a CPA. His CPA said, these guys are idiots. These guys are morons.
He said, are you guys crazy? You know what you're going to pay in taxes?
Yeah, and then we showed him our cash flow work, and the accountant said, wow, I never thought about it.
And you're having to retrain CPAs on the thinking of how looking at taxes.
And that's it. So if you've been in a position where you've been thinking one way of tax deferral, tax deferral, tax deferral, and you've built up this tax time bomb, then maybe it's time for you to get a second opinion on whether or not that tax time bomb makes sense for you to hold on to. If you have concerns or questions, give us a call at 833-652-7829. We'd be glad to give you that complimentary portfolio review. Take a look at what kind of fees you're paying, risks you're taking, and what kind of taxes are deferred in your investments.
Gentlemen, thank you so much. To our viewers at home, most specifically, thank you for spending time with us today. That number, 833-652-7829. Be safe, be happy, be blessed. We'll see you back 1 week from today on the Asset Preservation Hour with Stewart Willis.